All right, so recall for our upper atmosphere that our forces are the same in our list, except we can disregard friction because there is no friction in the upper atmosphere. There's no buildings and trees and cars and people to push back against the wind. So we don't even need to worry about friction. In our 500 millibar altitude, in the northern hemisphere, again, we have to first identify where our high and our low pressure is on our force diagram. So again, like the sea level pressures, the higher number relates to the higher pressure. So 5,712 is larger than 5,700, so our high pressure is lower here than our low pressure at the top. That's important to note because that's what drives our pressure gradient force. It always travels from high to low. Next, we have our Coriolis force. Again, pulls to the right in the northern hemisphere. Although in the upper atmosphere, where we don't have friction to take into account for, our pressure gradient force and our Coriolis force will balance each other out as equal and opposite forces. That being said, your arrows should be pretty close to the same length for the two of those forces. Lastly, we can add our wind in since we don't have to worry about friction here. Our Coriolis still pulls our wind to the right, so you still have to know which way you're traveling in the northern hemisphere. So our winds are going to go this way and end up being parallel with our isobars for our figure. Let's try another example. So our bottom figure here, we have 5,690 meters or 5,678 meters for our 500 millibar height. Our higher number relates to our higher pressure, and our lower number relates to our lower pressure. We can begin to add our pressure gradient force in, traveling from high to low. Our Coriolis force in the upper atmosphere balances equal and opposite with our pressure gradient force. Same length arrows. Lastly, we can put our wind in. Recall that we always get bent to the right in the northern hemisphere from our Coriolis. So we'll start at our PGF and we'll bend it to the right. And there's our wind for our 500 millibar altitude.